Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto trained by Anko? Movie 16. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends and also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created a playlist where you can find out all the previous parts of this video, link in the description, and check out the other video as well. So let's start the video. A bit of everyday fun. Today was an important day for Rock Lee. A scary, nerve-wracking, but very important day for the young Taijutsu user, as today was the day that Tsunade would perform the first of many attempts to remove the bone fragments located near his spine. His leg was already healed to a satisfactory level that he could walk around without his crutches, though Tsunade advised him to keep using them for a few more days to give the muscles some time to adjust. Lee was very happy that this part of his injury was over and hoped that the operation today would be a success as well. He trusted Tsunade and believed in her abilities as a medic, but he was still a little worried. He had been accompanied by Guy Sensei on the way to the hospital, but he was a bit sad that none of his friends had joined them. He had received several visits from them over the past few days, each wishing him a speedy recovery and encouraging him. He had been very touched by the gestures and promised that he would do his best to join them as soon as possible. Of course, the rest of the Genins had told him to wait for Tsunade's permission, but said that once he was cleared by her, then they would help him catch up with the rest of them. Guy, who was walking alongside his favorite pupil, saw the sad look and inwardly smiled. He was very proud of Lee and knew what risks the boy was taking for his dream. He also knew that the rest of the Genins wouldn't abandon Lee like that, so they must have something planned later on. The hospital came into view, and soon they entered the building going straight for the reception. After asking the woman for the number of the room where Lee would have to wait, they marched on. Lee opened the door with a sense of dread, but that vanished very fast as he saw all his friends waiting there for him. "Hey Lee, stop standing there and get inside," Kiba called out. Lee nodded and stepped inside the room, still surprised at seeing everyone here. Ino, Sakura, and Hinata guided him to the bed and helped him in it. "So are you ready to get better?" Naruto asked. "You bet. I can't wait to start training again. I've had enough of doing nothing all the time," Lee said enthusiastically. "I'm sure everything will be alright, Lee-kun. Tsunade-sama is the best medic nin in the world," Hinata said, smiling at Lee. "You'll be training with us in no time." Soon after, everyone wished him good luck and talked a bit. Shizune entered the room telling everyone that Lee needed to get ready. They quickly said goodbye and promised to be there when he woke up after the operation. Lee thanked his friends and followed Shizune behind the curtain. Shizune then explained to him what was going to happen and said that there was still time to reconsider his decision, but Lee was firm and wouldn't back out. About 20 minutes later, Tsunade entered the room and together they left for the operation room. Tsunade had been doing some research for this operation and she believed that she might be able to help Lee without endangering his life. Still, it would take several hours of surgery with a team consisting of several medic nins. One slip-up could mean disaster, and each and every one of them was aware of the risk. Lee took his place on the operation table and looked at the medic nins at his side. "Tsunade-sama, Shizune-san, and the rest of you too. Thank you so much for doing this. I have full confidence in you, so I'm not afraid," Lee said with a bright smile. "Thank you, Lee-kun, but let's save the thank you words for afterwards, okay?" Tsunade said before she started giving her instructions to her colleagues. Several minutes later, Lee was asleep and they started the operation. The rest of the Genin weren't in the mood for training, knowing that their friend was undergoing surgery at the same time, but there was nothing else to do. Tsunade had warned them that the operation would take several hours and none of them wanted to wait in the hospital for so long. So the Jounin sensei decided that training should continue as usual, but they could see that the Genin were far from interested. After completing the normal training exercises, they decided to separate them into their teams so they wouldn't be so distracted. Anko and Kurenai took their team towards the training ground just next to the Forbidden Forest that they usually used. "Alright, listen up. We understand that you guys are worried about Lee, but that doesn't mean that you can let your emotion dictate your actions," Anko said sternly. Anko is right. Now we're going to do some team training, and if we see that you don't give it everything you got, then you'll be in big trouble. Is that clear? Kurenai said equally sternly. "Hi, Anko-sensei, Kurenai-sensei," was heard throughout the field. Teammate knew better than not to give 100% when it came to team training. Glad to see that you understand. Now, this is the situation. Anko is a missing nin of unknown rank and has kidnapped Daimyo's daughter and is holding her captive. You only know the location, but nothing about it specifically. The four of you will be responsible for eliminating the missing nin and rescuing the hostage. The time limit is 2 hours, but there are several handicaps you'll have. Hinata will be forbidden to use the Byakugan, Naruto can't use Kage Bunshin, Shino isn't allowed to leave a bug on me, and Kiba can't use his combination jutsu with Akamaru. Kurenai explained the exercise. Hey, why am I the missing nin, and you the daimyo's daughter? Anko complained. Because I said so, that's why. Kurenai said, sticking out her tongue showing that she was joking. So it's not fair, I'm always the bad guy in these exercises. Anko said, crossing her arms on her chest. Next time you can be the princess, okay? Kurenai laughed at the idea of Anko as a princess. Fine. Anko said happy. Alright, that's enough horsing around. Anko and I will be hidden in the forest and the time will start running in 10 minutes. Kurenai ended their playful banter. She and Anko disappeared into the trees and left the rest of the team to start planning for their assault. Thanks to the exercise, time went pretty fast for the genin, and when Anko and Kurenai told them that this was enough for the day, the four of them were ecstatic. The 6 of them then returned to the hospital, eager to find out how things had gone with Lee. It seemed they weren't the only ones, as the rest of the gang was there, as well. According to Guy, it couldn't be much longer seeing that 2 medic nin had left the operation room and hadn't come back. He assumed that they weren't needed anymore, and this might indicate that they were nearing the end of the surgery. An hour of anxious waiting later, Lee was escorted out of the operation room with Tsunade and Shizune at his side. They refused to say anything until Lee was safely in his room. When they had exited the room, they were assaulted by questions about Lee, and Tsunade had to remind them several times that they were in a hospital. She motioned them to follow her into the room next to Lee's. Calm down everyone, please. We've just had a surgery that took several hours and we're tired. Tsunade said tiredly. Tsunade-sama, how did the operation go? Guy asked, concerned. You can relax, Guy, it went perfectly. Tsunade said, smiling. We managed to extract several pieces of bone fragments without any complications. In fact, we managed to extract several more than I had anticipated. Thank you so much, Tsunade-sama, how can I ever repay you? Guy said in tears, happy that his student was alright. Don't thank me just yet, Guy, we still have some work left. We let Lee rest for a week or so before attempting to remove the rest. Tsunade told him. When can we see him? Tenten asked Tsunade. He should wake up in about an hour, but even then he'll be very tired and will need rest. You can see him for a bit, but try not to stay too long. Tsunade said seriously. She knew how tired and in pain Lee would feel, but even she wouldn't prevent his friends from seeing him. Why don't we let Team Guy visit Lee today and the rest of us can visit Lee tomorrow? Kakashi said, trying to do some crowd control. That's a great idea, Kakashi-sensei. That way it won't be so tiring for Lee. Hinata agreed. Kakashi's idea was accepted by all of them, and they all asked Niji and Tenten to tell Lee that they would visit him the next day. Of course they accepted and thanked them for their consideration for their teammate. The other bid Tsunade and Team Guy goodbye and returned home tired from training and from worrying about their friend. Naruto was once again holed up in his father's office working on his assignments he received from Jiraiya. After he had succeeded in successfully creating his explosive tags, he was now working on customizing them. He wanted to have tags with several proportions ready to use at any time. He had made the calculations for tags with different time delays and how big the explosions needed to be. He had also created a tag of his own, but he was tight-lipped about it for the moment. After working for about 2 hours, Naruto had enough of writing and scribbling down the seals, and he went outside to work on his latest jutsu. He was still working on the jutsu that would be equal with his father's Rasengan, and though he had made excellent progress, he still had a lot of work to do. He went to his usual spot away from prying eyes and started reviewing what he had already discovered. His training had enabled him to hold the jutsu long enough now, but he still needed to work on the shape. It still didn't have the size he wanted, and there was the problem he had encountered. The bigger he made it, the more unstable it became. Once he passed a certain size, the jutsu just collapsed, forcing him to start all over again. It was frustrating to say the least. Anko had seen her lover going outside and knew he would either be working with his tags or on his jutsu. Since she didn't hear any explosions, she figured he was working on his secret project today. She grinned and left the house, sneaking closer to Naruto. For weeks she had been trying to figure out what Naruto's new jutsu was, but once again he refused to say anything about it. No matter what she tried or said, he kept quiet. It was driving her up the walls. She just wanted to know one little secret. She didn't understand what the big deal was. She had even bribed him with some extra shower fun time or threatened him with no ramen for a week. The result stayed the same, he wouldn't budge. That's why she decided to try the sneaky way. If asking nicely didn't work, then she would have to use other means. She covered behind a tree before sprinting towards a large boulder that would be able to conceal her completely. Bit by bit she got closer. She could already see Naruto standing there with his back turned on her. She looked at the place, trying to find a new hiding place closer to him, and smiled when she noticed a big tree that had several branches that would allow her full view from above. Smirking and confident that she hadn't been seen yet, she crept to the tree before climbing it. From her position she could see Naruto standing there with a look of concentration on his face. She smiled a bit. She liked that face. It was one of the things she loved the most about Naruto. His will to never give up no matter what. She then noticed the rest of his stance. His hands were held in front of him, palms towards each other with about 5 inches between them. She leaned closer to see more clearly, but she couldn't make out anything more than that. She looked around and saw that the tree had another branch that would allow her to see closer. She was unaware, however, that Naruto had noticed her, pretending not to have noticed her. He grinned. This was an excellent way to repay her for some of her teasing she always did. Naruto had long been used to his girlfriend's spying and had taken precautions. He never trained on his special project without making some Kage Bunshin who surveyed the area disguised and spread around the garden. So when a Kage Bunshin popped, informing him of his girlfriend's presence, he wasn't too surprised. He ordered another Kage Bunshin to sneak up on her in the tree, and when the clone saw Anko leaning closer to see it, couldn't resist. With skills acquired after years of pranking, the clone positioned itself straight behind Anko before yelling out aloud, "Boo." Anko, who was fascinated by Naruto, didn't pay attention, and so she got so surprised that she actually jumped several inches from the branch, screaming her head off before falling out of the tree straight into her boyfriend's arms. "Hello Anko-chan, how nice of you to drop by," Naruto said, laughing loudly. Anko, who still had her hand across her heart from the scare, finally understood what had happened and scowled before punching Naruto in the arm. "You little jerk, you think this is funny, do you?" she said before jumping out of his arms. "Yeah, a little bit," Naruto said, winking at her. "I'll show you funny, Mr. Smarty Pants." Anko growled before she started to chase him around the garden. If anyone had entered the garden at the moment, they would have seen a laughing Naruto running from a kunai-wielding Anko with a predatory smile on her face. After chasing him for about a minute, she caught up with him and tackled him into the shallow pond in the middle of the garden. She sat down on his stomach, effectively preventing him from escaping before she started tickling him. Naruto screamed out in laughter while pleading for mercy, but receiving none. "Anko-chan, please have mercy," Naruto managed to say. "There is no mercy on the battlefield," Anko said victoriously before she stopped with her torture. She then bent down toward his lips and started to kiss him. Naruto eagerly responded to the kiss and held her closely. No matter how many times she kissed him, she always had an effect on him. The small kiss turned into a major makeout session before Naruto flipped her over so he would be on top. Anko didn't resist. She loved it when Naruto took control. She smiled at him when he broke the kiss. A bit sad he stopped kissing her, but she recognized the lust in his eyes. She patted herself on the back for having such an influence on her lover. Next thing she knew, she was lifted out of the pond, held closely by Naruto, and carried towards the house. She shivered in anticipation of what was coming. She loved her lovemaking sessions with Naruto, especially after she had managed to turn him on like she did now. She was in for a long night, and nothing could make her any happier. The next day, Hinata, Sakura, and Ino were once again walking towards the hospital for their daily lessons with Shizune. For weeks now they had been studying medicine with Tsunade's apprentice, and they had made some excellent progress. Today, however, they would be allowed to help with the patients, nothing too complicated, but it was a start. They would be following Certified Medic Nin and assist them where needed. The girls were very happy that Shizune and Tsunade deemed them ready to start working at the hospital and were eager to show them what they had learned in the past few weeks. Ah, there you three are. Come on, let's get you ready, shall we? Shizune said, smiling. Shizune ushered them inside a changing room for nurses and gave each of them an outfit. Shizune almost laughed at their faces when they saw the clothes they would be wearing. It was a standard nurse outfit, a white one-piece dress, a little hat, and shoes. Of course the girls protested at first, not wanting to wear the skimpy outfit, but Shizune was firm and told them that this was what they would be wearing while working in the hospital. I feel like one of those girls who work on the street. Ino complained loudly. Yeah, I mean, could they make this any shorter? Sakura agreed. Her outfit showed a lot of leg, and she felt a little bit embarrassed about it. Come on you two, it isn't so bad. Hinata said, smiling. Sure, the outfit was a bit revealing, but it could have been a lot worse. Besides, she was already used to wearing something sexy thanks to Anko and Kurenai. Both Sakura and Ino gaped at Hinata. Here was the shyest girl in their class, a girl who used to faint when she saw the object of her dreams, when he looked her straight in the eyes, and she was telling them not to be such prudes. They wondered what had happened to the girl, but then they remembered who her senseis were, and they understood immediately. Being submitted to Anko's fashion sense would make sure that an outfit like this didn't bother you anymore. They looked at Hinata standing there in front of the mirror, and they had to admit that she looked fabulous. They felt a little jealous of Hinata, who was much more developed than they were, especially in the chest area. Wow, Hinata, you look great. Ino said, staring at her. Thank you, Ino-chan, you don't look bad yourself. Hinata said, returning the compliment. You took Sakura too. Before Sakura could argue with her friend's opinion, Shizune entered the room to see what was taking them so long. She had a lot of work to do, so she couldn't afford to waste any time. She smiled at the girls and told them that they looked very professional, which made them very happy. She then dragged them outside the changing room and told them to follow her. With the three girls hot on her tail, Shizune made her way to her office. All right, girls, let me explain what is going to happen today. Shizune said calmly. Starting today, you will be allowed to assist a medic nin. Before you get any ideas, you will not be helping in healing or curing any patient for the time being, as it's much too soon for that. However, you will be joining a medic nin like me, and he or she will ask questions and explain things to you with each patient. The girls nodded their understanding at Shizune's words and waited for further instructions. Please pay close attention to what is happening and be sure to ask if you don't understand anything. They have been briefed about the three of you, and they don't mind at all. Shizune continued. Sometimes a patient will ask that you leave the room if they are uncomfortable with you being there. Please respect that and don't make a fuss about it. After the explanation, Shizune introduced each girl to the medic nin they would be following and assisting. Thankfully, the girls were accepted very fast, and the medic nins were glad to teach them everything they knew. Inyazuka Hana was carrying her little brother Kiba to the hospital after he hurt himself during training. She shook her head at her foolish little brother. She had told him that this new jutsu was out of his league for the time being, but would he listen? She supposed it was kind of cute how he pushed himself so hard to surpass his friend and rival, but he really needed to learn how to back down. She had seen him practice only to crash headfirst into one of the surrounding trees, effectively knocking him out. Of course, if that was the only thing wrong with him, she would have just stayed by his side until he woke up, but apparently the crash had been severe enough to crack some of his ribs. So she did the only thing a big sister could do and carried him to the hospital. Going to the front desk and explaining the situation, she was told to put Kiba into a bed while they waited for a medic to arrive. After waiting a bit, the door opened and revealed a middle-aged woman and a young girl that Hana recognized as Hyuga Hinata. She remembered that Kiba had said something about her and two other training under Tsunade to become medic nin. The woman didn't waste much time and told Hinata to do a scan of Kiba's injuries. Hinata was a bit surprised since Shizune had told them that they would just be watching a medic nin at work. Well, get on with it, girl. The woman said impatiently. You won't learn anything by just standing there. Hi, sensei. Hinata said quickly before approaching the bed. When she saw Kiba lying there, she wondered what had happened, but figured she could ask later on. Running through some hand seals, she activated the jutsu and started doing a scan. Sensei, he has 3 cracked ribs and a small concussion. Hinata said with some uncertainty a few moments later. She was very nervous as the woman was following her actions very closely. When the woman smiled and congratulated her on a well-done diagnosis, she relaxed a bit. Good job, Hinata. The woman said. Remember, a good diagnosis is the first step in correctly healing a patient. Therefore, you must always double-check and be very certain that you made the right decision at all times. She told Hinata to step aside so she could start healing Kiba. She started with healing his concussion before she moved on to his ribs. Luckily, a few cracked ribs were easy enough to heal, and a concussion was something that she had healed 1,000 times before. When she finished, she used a special jutsu to wake Kiba up. "Ow, where am I? What happened?" Kiba asked, confused. "You're in the hospital, and what happened is that you tried that new jutsu and crashed into a tree," Hana said with a stern voice. She would make sure that Kiba got scolded by their mother as well. Kiba nodded at his sister before his eye fell on a familiar lavender-haired, pupil-less-eyed girl. He looked at Hinata with his mouth wide open, unable to say a word. He just kept staring at her, his brain shut down from the sight. "Ha ha ha ha, it seems that you have quite the effect on my little brother Hinata-san," Hana said, laughing. "I think you broke him." Hinata just turned a bright red before hiding herself a bit from Kiba's view. She couldn't believe that Kiba would have such a reaction to seeing her. She was glad Ino or Sakura weren't there to see this, they would tease her for weeks. Or worse, if Anko found out about this, she was screwed. "Well, seeing that this young man will be fine in a few minutes, I'd say it's time for us to move on, Hinata," the woman said, smiling. "Come along now." Hinata quickly followed, glad to be able to leave before Kiba came to his senses and she had to deal with his reaction. Secretly, she was glad she had such an effect on her teammate. It made her feel good and sexy. It also did wonders for her self-esteem and the fact that she liked the boy quite a bit. Morning training had been going as usual, starting with Guy's torture workout from hell, followed by either ninjutsu training with Kakashi and Asuma or Genjutsu training with Kurenai. Today, however, there would be a new part added to the training. The Jounin senseis were satisfied with their students' progress and believed they were ready to start sparring against each other individually or against their senseis in group. "All right, gather around," Asuma called the genin to him. Once he had their attention, he continued. "First of all, let me say, and I speak for all of us here present, that we are very proud of you all. You all have become very strong over the past few months. Therefore, we believe it is time to introduce a new part during training. From now on, there will be sparring matches every day between all of us." "Troublesome. What do you mean all of us's? Does that include your senseis as well?" Shikamaru asked, groaning. "You're still as sharp as ever, Shikamaru." "But yes, that does include the Jounin sensei as well." Asuma nodded. "Of course, you won't be facing a Jounin level shinobi on your own. When you spar with one of us, you'll be fighting as a team with 2 others. Now for a few rules. These sparring matches are just that. They're not fighting to the death or to injure your adversary, is that understood?" Asuma said strictly. "They're meant to enable you to test your strengths and to understand your weaknesses. Under no circumstances are any of you allowed to permanently injure anyone." Asuma is right. "Any breaking of the rules will be severely punished," Kakashi said, backing up his friend and fellow shinobi. The group nodded their understanding. They were sure none of them here would purposely injure another, seeing as they were all friends anyway. Still, accidents happened from time to time, so they promised to be careful. Asuma then continued to explain that the sparring matches would be to jutsu only unless stated otherwise. That meant no ninjutsu or weapons could be used. Of course, they would take in account that someone like Tenten wouldn't stand a chance against Niji in a pure Taijutsu match, so they wouldn't put her against such an opponent. Other than that, everything was allowed as long as they stayed within the rules. There will be 1 sparring match a day, while the others observe and comment later on. Kakashi finished the explanation. The spars will be randomly decided by picking a piece of paper out of this box, he said, showing a box with a hole in it on top. He then put his hand inside and took out 2 little pieces of paper and gave it to Kurenai. "The first person to spar will be Uchiha Sasuke, please come forward," Kurenai announced. Sasuke stepped forward with a smug expression on his face, eagerly waiting to see who would be his opponent. "And the second person," Kurenai stared at the paper before continuing. "Namek is Naruto." Naruto jumped up from where he was sitting and walked over to where Sasuke was standing. He wasn't surprised when he saw the satisfied smile on Sasuke's face. Even though Naruto had given up on his rivalry with him, he was curious and somewhat excited to face the boy in a spar. Naruto took off his sword and gave it to Anko, seeing as he couldn't use it anyway. "Okay, let me remind you, That this is a Taijutsu match only. Naruto, that means no Kage Bunshin or any other ninjutsu. Kakashi said to Naruto. He then turned to Sasuke. Sasuke, just like any other time during this training you can't use your Sharingan. Both of the boys nodded their consent and got into their stance. Kurenai, Anko, and Asuma went over to the other genin and sat down next to them. The genin were talking lively about the match, each of them betting on who would win. Sensei, who do you think will win? Hinata asked Anko. Can't say Hinata. While Naruto is without a doubt proficient in Taijutsu, it isn't his best skill either. Sasuke on the other hand has always been talented at Taijutsu thanks to his family style and his Sharingan. Anko admitted. But Sasuke can't use his Sharingan now, so wouldn't that be to Naruto's advantage? Chaoji asked. You forget that Sasuke has been training on his Taijutsu for years, while Naruto only has had a year to practice and use his style. Experience is not something that should be ignored. Shikamaru said from behind Anko. Shikamaru is right. Experience is something of extreme importance in a fight. But instead of speculating, I suggest we watch the match. Kurenai said, pointing at both boys. Naruto, Sasuke, are you two ready? Kakashi said. He received two nods and lowered his hand, starting the match. As soon as Kakashi's hand came down, Sasuke shot forward, trying to take the pace of the match. He started out with a wide punch aimed at Naruto's jaw, but he only hit air as Naruto ducked under his punch. Sasuke then had to jump back slightly to avoid being hit by an uppercut aimed at his stomach. Naruto kept pushing forward and tried to kick Sasuke's feet from under him, only to have Sasuke jump over his attack. Seeing his attack missed, Naruto raised his arm just in time to block a roundhouse kick before grabbing Sasuke's leg and starting spinning him around. He let go of Sasuke, who was sent flying, but managed to land on his feet. They both smirked at each other before they shot forward once again, both pulling their arm back to deliver a punch. Neither of them backed down, and this resulted in a crash where both boys got punched in the face. Momentarily stunned from the blow, they stopped their attack. Naruto was the first to recover, however, and managed to land another hit on Sasuke, nailing him right in the stomach. Sasuke got the air knocked out of him, and he bent over holding his stomach in pain. He wasn't distracted for long, however, as he saw Naruto preparing for another attack. He blocked the kick with his left arm before he slammed his right elbow into his opponent's ribcage. Naruto winced in pain. He wasn't sure, but he felt like he had broken a rib or two from the blow. He didn't back down, however, and exploited Sasuke's proximity by grabbing him by the head with both hands. He pulled Sasuke's head down while bringing his knee up and slammed it into Sasuke's nose, which broke on impact. Kakashi, who had been chosen as referee, glanced at his fellow Jounin sensei and nodded. The match had gone on long enough, and both boys had been injured. Though the spar had been a little more serious than they had hoped, both boys seemed to be in control of their emotions so far, but he feared that if he let things go on, things would get out of hand. Better to stop the match now when there was no clear winner. Seeing that they were preparing for another attack, he quickly positioned him between them, effectively ending the match. Well done, both of you, Kakashi said quickly. Remember, this is just a spar, so there isn't a winner or a loser. You both fought very well today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you both progress even further. Naruto nodded and smiled at his teacher's praise and relaxed from his stance. He walked over to Sasuke and held out his hand for Sasuke to shake. Naruto had enjoyed their spar and was surprised at Sasuke's strength and skill. He had always known that Sasuke was an excellent and talented shinobi. If only he could get rid of his arrogant behavior, maybe they could be friends. Good fight, Sasuke. You're really strong at Taijutsu, Naruto sincerely said. Whatever, dope, if I could use my Sharingan you wouldn't have stood a chance. Sasuke ignored Naruto's words before walking back to the side. The other genin were a bit mad at Sasuke's dismissal of Naruto like that, but let it go when Naruto said that they shouldn't worry about it. He should have known that Sasuke was too proud to accept his acknowledgement. He wondered why Sasuke wasn't tired of being so mad and arrogant all the time. Surely one would get enough of being so moody and grumpy every single moment of the day. Later that day, Naruto returned from performing one of his Chunin duties. He had argued with Tsunade that doing too many duties would severely cut his training time, but Tsunade had said that, as a Chunin, he was expected to perform them. Naruto had accepted not wanting to receive special treatment. That's why he was scheduled to do guard duty at the gate with another more experienced Chunin. It wasn't all bad, since he got to know some new people, and he eagerly listened to their stories and adventures whenever there was a peaceful moment. He especially liked guard duty with either Kotetsu or Izumo, as they were fun guys to work with. They understood the importance of a good laugh once in a while, and they had always been friendly with him. So now Naruto was heading home after being relieved of duty. He decided to take a shortcut by going through the training grounds. He didn't expect anyone to still be there, so he was a bit surprised when he saw Sasuke working on one of his Kaiten jutsu. Naruto had to admire Sasuke's determination. To still be training at this hour after a long day of team training and missions was something he respected. Of course, he would never admit it out loud. He watched as Sasuke crashed down on the grass after performing the jutsu one more time. Seeing that this might be a time to talk to the boy, Naruto approached him. "Still training hard, huh, Sasuke?" Naruto said, smiling. Sasuke, who hadn't noticed Naruto's presence until then, glared at him before answering. "Are you spying on me, dope? What do you want?" Sasuke sneered. "Nah, I wasn't spying on you. I just finished guard duty and was on my way home, that's all," Naruto said, ignoring Sasuke's smug behavior. "Well, don't let me keep you," Sasuke said, trying to make Naruto leave. "You know, I don't understand you at all. Why do you insist on being such a jerk?" Naruto said, frowning. "Whatever, dope, you couldn't understand what I've been through," Sasuke said, turning his head away from Naruto. He really didn't want to discuss this with the one he saw as a not-so-friendly rival. Maybe not, but I do know what it means to be alone. You're not the only one who lost his parents, you know," Naruto admitted. "Shut up, dope. How would you feel if you saw your brother kill your father and mother in front of you?" Sasuke all but shouted. "Honestly? I don't know, because I have no idea what it means to have a brother or parents," Naruto said solemnly. "My mum and dad died when I was just a day old, remember? I grew up alone thinking they didn't love me or abandoned me until I made Genin. That's why I said that I know what it means to be alone." "I don't need your pity," Sasuke yelled. "Pity? Is that what you think this is?" Naruto asked, bewildered. "I don't pity you, Sasuke, on the contrary, I envy you. You at least had a chance to know your parents, even if it was only for a few years. That is something I will never have. You know, I used to be jealous of you. You were loved by almost the whole village, everyone adored you, yet you pushed everyone away. I never understood that, but I'm sure you have a reason. Don't concern yourself with my life, Namikaze," Sasuke remarked. "Besides, I don't need to explain anything to you." "Fair enough. But let me warn you, Sasuke, if your quest for power endangers Konoha or anyone living here, I'll personally stop you," Naruto warned him. "Whatever, dope, don't think that, because you're the son of a Hokage, that you can threaten me," Sasuke said with his usual sneer on his face. "This has nothing to do with who my father is, Sasuke," Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. "I know that you're obsessed with getting stronger so you can kill Itachi. While I can understand this to a certain degree, that doesn't mean I won't stop you if you cross the line." Naruto then stood up and left Sasuke without saying another word. Sasuke glared at Naruto's retreating form, and he had to calm himself down lest he attack the blonde. "How dare he threaten me like that? I'm an Uchiha, for crying out loud," Sasuke thought furiously. "One day I'm going to make you eat those words, dope." A scare and a mission. It had now been almost 3 months since Jiraiya had left Konoha, so he could prepare for Naruto's training trip. In those 3 months, Naruto and the gang had been training hard for the upcoming battles with Akatsuki or any other enemies that threatened their peaceful village. During that training, all of them had gained new strengths and learned new things, so all in all, things were going great for all of them. Naruto had grown a lot thanks to the training schedule Jiraiya had left him. Not only did he get stronger, he also learned about sealing, tactics, and everything else that Toad Sannin had included. Anko was standing on the side watching her young charges train, but unlike any other day, she was restless and uncomfortable. She seemed to be unable to relax, and it was getting on Kurenai nerves. The last time Anko had been like this was when Team 8 had entered the Chunin exams all those months ago. "Anko, what's wrong with you?" Kurenai asked finally. Anko didn't answer, but dragged Kurenai into the bushes away from everyone. "Anko, what the hell? SSSH, Kurenai, can I trust you?" Anko asked worriedly. "Of course you can trust me. Anko, what is this about?" Kurenai sighed. "I'm late," was the only thing Anko managed to say. "Oh my god. How long?" Kurenai asked immediately. A week and a half. Anko said, unable to look at Kurenai. What am I going to do? Okay, first of all you need to calm down. Kurenai said, placing her hands on Anko's shoulders. Second of all, have you told Naruto yet? No, I haven't said a word about it to Naruto. Anko whispered like she was afraid he might hear her from such a distance. I'm scared to tell him. Anko, you need to tell him. He has a right to know that you might be pregnant. Kurenai said hotly. Don't you think I know that? Do you have any idea how hard this is for me? Anko hissed back at her. I'm scared to death right now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snap at you. But you need to tell him, Anko. Kurenai sighed. Can you imagine how he would feel if he found out about it from someone else? I know, believe me I know, but it would ruin everything if I'm pregnant. With Akatsuki after him, they wouldn't hesitate to use me and our child against him. Anko said, fearing for her lover's life. I understand, Anko, but you don't know if you're pregnant yet. Kurenai said, trying to calm down her friend. Why don't I call Naruto here and then you can go see Tsunade-sama together? Anko nodded her consent and waited until Kurenai had told Naruto that she needed to speak with him. She was terrified of telling him that she might be pregnant with his child. Until now she had always had a stable menstrual cycle. Usually she knew exactly what day her period would start, but this time it hadn't come. Now a week and a half later she still didn't have her period, and she feared that she had gotten pregnant, even if they used every way of preventing that. Anko-chan, what's wrong? Kurenai-sensei told me you didn't feel well. Naruto asked her when he arrived. To his surprise, Anko just grabbed him and hugged him closely. Naruto-kun, I'm late. Anko said with a trembling voice. If someone had told him that before he met Anko he would have answered with late for what, but luckily for him, he had been taught about the female body and its implications by his girlfriend during their time in the forest. Are you sure? Did you take a test yet? Naruto said while still holding her. He could feel her shaking in his arms and knew that she was terrified of telling him. He had noticed that she was acting a little strange, but when he asked she told him that everything was fine. You're not mad at me? Anko asked, surprised. Of course not. Anko-chan, it takes two people to make a baby, remember? We're in this together, so no, I'm not mad. He smiled at her when he felt her relax in his arms. She raised her head and kissed him square on the lips, happy that he wasn't mad at her. Thank you, Naruto-kun, I was so worried you would be mad at me. She said between kisses. Okay, why don't you go home and get cleaned up a bit while I go get Tsunade-bachan? Naruto asked her. Anko silently nodded and left Naruto's embrace, but not before giving him one last kiss. She left the training grounds and went straight for their home. It was funny, but in just a few weeks' time both of them had accepted Naruto's parents' house as their home. It wouldn't take much longer before they moved in permanently. She ran straight to the bathroom and took a quick shower before going back downstairs to wait for Naruto and Tsunade. Naruto hopped across the rooftops towards the Hokage Tower. He was thinking about what would happen if Anko was indeed pregnant. If she was, then there was no way he would leave on that raining trip for 3 years. No child of his would have to miss his or her dad while growing up, and he didn't want to leave Anko alone to take care of their child either. They would have to adjust to the situation. He wasted no time and went straight for the Hokage's office, ignoring some of the people who told him to stop. He just barged in, not caring who was inside with the Hokage. Naruto, what is the meaning of this? Tsunade said angrily. Luckily she was alone in her office for the moment. Bachan, I need you to come with me quickly. Naruto said, dodging a paperweight aimed at him. Don't call me that, you brat. What's the matter? Tsunade said before calming down a little. She could see Naruto was nervous and she had never seen him like this. It's Anko-chan, come on. Naruto said. Is she hurt? What happened? Tsunade said, rising from her chair. I can't tell you, but you have to come with me. Naruto sighed loudly. Please, this is really important. Fine, but this better not be a prank, you hear me? Tsunade glared at him. Naruto just nodded and dragged her out of the office and outside the tower. She followed him and couldn't help but wonder what was going on. For Naruto to act like this, it must be something serious. Not even 5 minutes later they landed in front of the gate of his home and Naruto ushered her inside. Tsunade followed close at his heels, expecting the worst. She relaxed when she found Anko sitting in the living room. Okay, what is going on here? Tsunade angrily said. I get dragged out of the office thinking that something terrible has happened, but you look fine. Bachan, Anko is late for her period. Naruto said, taking control of the situation. She's what? Mount Tsunade just erupted. No need to yell, Tsunade-sama. Could you please check if I'm pregnant or not? Anko said loudly. Honestly, there was no need to start shouting at them. I'm sorry for yelling at Anko. Now why don't you lie down and lift up your shirt? Tsunade apologized. Anko nodded and did as Tsunade asked. Tsunade placed her hand on Anko's belly just above the place where her uterus is located and activated a jutsu. She used her chakra to check if there was any life form growing inside of Anko. After a few terrifying moments, she cancelled the jutsu and told Anko that she could sit up again. Naruto immediately grabbed her in a hug and waited for Tsunade's verdict. The both of you can relax. You're not pregnant, Anko. Tsunade smiled at the couple. Anko relaxed and leaned into Naruto, happy that she wasn't pregnant yet. Thank God. Anko softly said before turning to Naruto. Don't get me wrong, I want a baby, but not yet. Don't worry, Anko-chan. I feel exactly the same way. Naruto laughed. Yes, well, that's all good and all, but you two should really be more careful. Tsunade lectured them. We are careful. We used every means of protection. Anko said, not want to be treated as a child by Tsunade. Anko, I'm not saying this to lecture you. I'm trying to warn both of you. If you got pregnant, things would have been a mess. Tsunade said softly. As much as I would enjoy a few grandchildren, it's just not the right time. I know. That's why I was so afraid. It's just that I panicked when my period didn't come, and I feared the worst. Anko admitted. Trust me, I know the feeling. Tsunade laughed. When Dan and I were together, we had the same scare a few times. Really? Anko asked, surprised. That doesn't sound like you at all, Tsunade-sama. What can I say? The heat of the moment and you forget all the rest. Tsunade shrugged. Naruto just shivered at the thought of Tsunade having sex. Oh God, please. I don't want to hear this about you, Bachan. Naruto complained. What? I was young and in love. Tsunade smirked. I bet I could teach Anko here a thing or two about sex. I'm not listening to this. Naruto said, placing his hands on his ears and humming a song. Both women laughed loudly at seeing this. No matter how mature Naruto was, at times he still could act like a young boy every once in a while. Once Naruto had been convinced that they weren't discussing Tsunade's sex life anymore, he joined back in the conversation. Tsunade then told them that they should take the afternoon off, seeing that Anko was tired and emotionally spent. Anko admitted that she hadn't slept a lot over the past few days, so they accepted the free time. She also told them that she knew of a seal that would make pregnancy impossible, but that there was a downside to using it. The seal used to be used by Kunoichi, who had to go undercover for a long time. The seal was placed just above the uterus and could be disguised as a small tattoo of some sort. Tsunade explained that if they chose to use the seal, then Anko would be unable to conceive a child for 5 years. While 5 years seemed long, it could be perfect, seeing that Naruto would be gone for 3 years, and even then they didn't know how long it would take to get rid of Akatsuki. In the end, Naruto and Anko decided that they would think about it for the time being. Naruto and Anko took the afternoon off and stayed at home. Since it was warm and sunny, they went outside and sat down on the bench just relaxing. It didn't take long for Anko to fall asleep, and Naruto was in no hurry to wake her. He knew she was tired from worrying and needed the nap. After quietly making a kage bunshin and ordering it to fetch his scrolls in his office, he started to read and work on his next idea. During his study of explosive tags, he had come across something that might prove very useful, but it still needed some work. If he messed up, he could end up doing more harm than good. He scribbled down a few calculations before crossing them out again, seeing that he made an error at the very beginning. Groaning, he took another paper and started from the top again. Iro Sennin will pay for making me do maths so much, Naruto thought. I don't care how useful these tags may be. I hate maths. An hour or two later, Naruto let out a soft victory cry. After hours of hard work, he had a prototype ready. He was eager to test it out, but since he couldn't move without waking Anko, he would have to wait. He didn't have to wait much longer though, as she opened her eyes not even 10 minutes later. After giving her some time to fully wake up, he asked her how she felt. I'm okay now, just a little tired. Anko told him. You know, while I'm glad that you're not pregnant, yet the thought of being a dad wasn't so bad. Naruto admitted to her. "I know, but now isn't the time," she replied. She too hadn't mind the prospect of being a mother. "One day I will tell you the exact same news, and then we'll look forward to the day our baby is born. I can't wait for that day to happen," Naruto softly said. "But before that happens you'll have to marry me, mister," Anko said, poking him in the chest. "Consider it done, Anko-chan." Naruto laughed. Tsunade sighed when she saw the mountain of paperwork that had been brought in by Shizune. She just couldn't understand how it was possible that so much paperwork needed her attention. Even with the help of Hideki and Sarutobi, she had more than enough paperwork to deal with. She just couldn't imagine how it must have been if she didn't implement Naruto's ideas. She would have fled by now, she was sure of that. Going through the files, her eye fell on a mission scroll that just screamed for attention. She opened it and read the request. It wasn't something out of the ordinary, except that it asked for specific shinobi to complete it. It happened from time to time that clients requested a particular team or individual that they had worked with before. This request, however, was a bit weird because it mentioned the words "our heroes" and "saviors" several times. She looked at the names before rereading the scroll. She frowned and hastily scribbled 2 names of her own on the list. She called Anbu and ordered him to fetch the names on the list. Anbu nodded and disappeared, leaving Tsunade alone in her office. She wouldn't have to wait very long. She knew they were all training together, so they should be here shortly. The Anbu, who didn't like to play messenger boy but obeyed anyway out of fear, arrived at the training grounds and went straight for the Jounin. He had worked several times with them and held them in high regard. So in a polite tone he informed the Team 8 and 7 was asked to see Tsunade as soon as possible. Kurenai, Anko, and Kakashi nodded and called their teams, and together they sped towards the Hokage Tower. Even Kakashi had learned to be on time when Tsunade called him. She had threatened to knee him in the family jewels if he ever came late when she called for him. Needless to say, Kakashi didn't want that to happen anytime soon, so he just came on time. He did, however, come extra late for everything else in compensation. After being admitted to her office, Tsunade first assigned both Anko and Kurenai to a mission involving a missing nin from Kumo who had been sighted inside Konoha's borders. They were to apprehend him and question him as soon as possible. They also had to keep him alive so they could turn him out to Kumo, so they had to work carefully. They would be assisted by Kotetsu and Izumo, who would be waiting for them at the front gate the next morning. Both women nodded, showing they understood the mission and that they would get it done just the way Tsunade wanted it. "All right, now for the rest of you," Tsunade said, grabbing the scroll she had been looking at earlier. "We received a request for a mission from a certain Tazuna. Does that name ring any bells?" "You mean Tazuna-san from Wave?" Kiba blurted out. "That's exactly who I mean, Kiba," Tsunade said, smiling. "Tazuna-san requests a shinobi team to help neighboring villages deal with a series of missing people. It seems that over the past few weeks several children and young adults have been abducted from under their noses." "How many people are we talking about, Hokage-sama?" Kakashi asked seriously. "According to his info, about 20 to 30 people in the past 4 months." Tsunade sighed. At first they thought that the people had run away or something, but now it's obvious there's foul play involved. "You want us to find out what is going on?" Kakashi said, understanding the mission before Tsunade even explained it. "No, the mission is to find the missing people and dispose of the people responsible for their disappearance," Tsunade corrected him. "Tazuna-san asked specifically for Team 8, he even called them their heroes. Could someone explain that to me?" Team 8 was only too happy to explain what had happened on their first mission to Wave. When they got to the part where they defeated Zabuza and Haku, however, they became somewhat sad and their enthusiasm seemed to go down a bit. That mission had been the first mission where they had to kill in order to survive, and the things that happened there would be something they wouldn't forget for the rest of their lives. Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke listened closely and were surprised to hear the details of the story for the first time. They had known, of course, what had happened, since things like that didn't stay secret for very long, but hearing the story from Team 8 themselves was a whole other thing. Kakashi's respect for them increased even more as he admired the teamwork they had shown during that mission. This is what he envisioned when he talked about teamwork. Sakura too was amazed at her friends, but since she had already heard the story from Hinata before, she wasn't as shocked as Sasuke. Speaking of Sasuke, he was fuming when he heard the story. The things they had done were something that he could only dream of. All those months ago he wouldn't have stood a chance against a Jounin, let alone one as strong as Zabuza. and from what he heard, that Hakugai wasn't a pushover either. To hear that these losers had fought at such a level only angered him more. He would have to increase his training or otherwise he would be left behind, and he wouldn't allow that to happen. I see. You freed the country out of the clutches of a power-hungry asshole, thus enabling the country to get back on its feet. Tsunade nodded. No wonder they hold you all in such high regard. Well, for this mission, Team 8 and 7 will be working together with Kakashi as leader and Naruto as second in command. It's safe to assume that you might encounter shinobi or a highly organized network of criminals, so be careful. You leave tomorrow at the crack of dawn, so you better go prepare. Hi Tsunade-sama. They all said before dismissing themselves from her office. Once outside, Kiba congratulated Naruto for receiving his first mission, where he had a leader position. Naruto nodded, but didn't feel too sure about it himself. Was he ready to lead a team, even if Kakashi-sensei would be there to help him? Naruto decided not to worry about it for now and just do his best. Kakashi seemed to recognize Naruto's body language and tried to reassure him by saying that he had full confidence in Naruto's leadership abilities. That seemed to do the trick, and every doubt disappeared from Naruto's mind. The next morning, the two teams were ready to head out to Wave for their mission. After the customary check of their equipment, Team 8 and 7 left Konoha. Kakashi had said that they would travel for a few hours and then they would rest and come up with a plan. The genin had accepted, and now they were jumping and sprinting through the forest as fast as possible. For the next few hours nothing really happened, and they made excellent progress. Kakashi, however, noticed that Sakura and Hinata were running low on chakra and decided that this was far enough. He put up his hand and made motion to the ground, showing them that he wanted to rest. After a quick scout of their surroundings thanks to Hinata's Byakugan, they set up camp. Alright, we'll rest for 2 hours, and then we will continue our journey. Kakashi said after drinking some water. Naruto, how far are we from Wave, and how much longer till we get there? It's hard to say, Kakashi-sensei. We traveled with a civilian, so it took much longer to get there. Naruto said, thinking. If I were to guess, I would say that we're not that far from the bridge. Maybe a few more hours. Okay, once we reach that bridge you'll lead the way to Tazuna-san's house. Kakashi said. No, Kakashi-sensei, I think it would be best if we disguise ourselves once we're close to the bridge. Hinata said to him. Why is that, Hinata? The one-eyed Jounin asked her. Well, like you heard, the people of Wave consider us their heroes. Hinata said. If they saw us, then word would spread around Wave, and maybe the kidnappers would hear it as well. Of course, they would be on guard and even stop abducting people, so we won't be able to find them. Sakura continued. Excellent thinking, Hinata. We'll use a simple hinge to disguise ourselves. Kakashi agreed. After catching their breath and eating something, the group of shinobi continued their way towards Wave. Every once in a while Kakashi would ask Hinata, Kiba, and Shino to check their surroundings, but they made it to the bridge without any trouble. So far they hadn't been spotted, or the information that they were coming to Wave hadn't leaked much to his pleasure. Like Tsunade had told them the day before, he too thought that they would have to deal with shinobi later on. It was almost certain, since no one but a shinobi could move in and kidnap people from their own house without getting caught or noticed. He wondered what kind of enemies they would have to deal with. When Hinata told them that she could see the bridge with her Byakugan, Kakashi ordered a stop so they could disguise themselves. They all used the hinge to change them into a group of traveling family members and friends. If someone would look at them, they would see a middle-aged man with 6 teenagers. It was a strange sight, but nobody would think of them as a Jounin sensei, a Chunin, and 5 genin. They would be noticed by shinobi, but they doubted that they would encounter them so far from the villages where the people had disappeared. When they were all set, they walked to the bridge just like normal civilians. Half an hour later they once again laid eyes at the bridge that they helped defend all those months ago. What the hell? Kiba exclaimed loudly, making everyone look at him. What's wrong, Kiba? Did you see something? Kakashi asked, wondering if the young genin had seen something he had missed. Look at that, Kiba pointed to the large sign that was hung on the entrance of the bridge. They all looked up and saw what Kiba meant. On a wooden sign the name of the bridge was written in red letters. It clearly read the Great Naruto Bridge. Naruto immediately blushed and stared at the sign. He was just as surprised as the rest of Team 8. He asked himself why they had named the bridge solely after him when the whole team had helped. He didn't want to take credit for the others as well. Just then Sakura called them over, and they all went to stand next to her. She pointed at a large bronze plate that was placed at the side of the entrance. She started to read out loud. This bridge represents the courage and hope of all the people in Wave. When our country was in trouble and our people were in need of help, it took only a few courageous men and women to take a stand and fight. These men and women showed us that no matter how bad the situation is, there is always hope as long as we believe in ourselves and if we do the right thing. Without these heroes, our country would have fallen and our people would have suffered far more. That is why we thank those heroes from the bottom of our hearts. We want them to know that their sacrifice and actions will never be forgotten. This bridge is also dedicated to the brave shinobi who defeated the evil that was threatening our beloved country. Even though they had no obligations beyond their mission, they stayed and did what was right. The people of Wave will never forget Aburame Shino, Inuzuka Kiba, and Akamaru, Hyuga Hinata, Mitarashi Anko, Uzumaki Naruto, and Yuhi Kurenai. They are heroes that will live in our hearts forever. Wow, that's amazing. Tazuna-san really did a marvelous job here. Naruto was deeply impressed with the words and how the bridge looked. When they had left, it was only a bridge, but now it was so much more. It was a monument for those who had helped build it, and it was a reminder that one should never give up no matter what. And our name is written here as well. Kiba quietly said so only the group could hear. He knew better than to say such things out loud. It appears our deeds and actions are deeply appreciated. Shino said softly. Yes, well, let's move on, shall we? Kakashi said. He understood that they were happy and proud, but now wasn't the time to think about it. They had a mission to complete. When they crossed the bridge, they traveled toward the village. They still remembered how the village looked during Gato's reign. People begging for some money or food, and children starving at the side of the road with nobody to take care of them. When they reached the village, however, they saw that things had changed for the better. People were happily walking around, and children were playing in the street with any care in the world. Shops were filled with products, and food was not an issue judging from the several food stands on the marketplace. The country had truly recovered from the damage Gato and his men had inflicted. While walking through the village, Naruto and his friends couldn't help but feel very happy and proud. They were happy to see the people of Wave content and full of joy, and they felt proud that they had helped a whole country in need. In the few weeks that they were here, they had seen the village in its worst, and still they had been accepted by all of them, especially after Gato was defeated. Naruto and Kiba led them toward Tazuna's house, and after walking for 20 minutes or so they came to a familiar house. It seemed that Tazuna hadn't let the fame go to his head. After telling everyone to hide, Naruto knocked on the door and patiently waited for someone to open up. He didn't have to wait long though, as the door opened not 10 seconds later. Can I help you? The woman asked gently. Hello, Tsunami-san, it's good to see you again. Naruto said to her. Do we know each other? She said, surprised. She was pretty sure that she had never met the young man standing before her. Oh right, the hinge. Naruto said stupidly. He then looked around and dispelled the hinge, returning to his usual self. Tsunami goggled at the transformation but immediately recognized who it was. Naruto-kun, is that really you? She said, surprised, before grabbing him in a hug. Yep, it's me, all right. Naruto grinned. We received your father's request and came as soon as possible. We? Tsunami said while looking around but seeing no one. She gasped, however, when the rest of the group appeared from all around her. She knew shinobi were capable of extraordinary things, but she was still not used to seeing people appear out of thin air. Hello, Tsunami-san, it's nice seeing you again. Could we continue our discussion inside? Hinata said, greeting the woman. Tsunami nodded and invited them in. Team 8 already knew the layout of the house, so they took off their shoes and went inside the living room. Team 7 followed Tsunami inside, and when she told them to take a seat, they sat down. Tsunami offered them some tea, which they gratefully accepted. She also told them that her father was working in a nearby village building a small dam to reroute the river for more effective farming. When Hinata asked about Inari, she proudly said that he was at school but should be home in about an hour. She was very proud of her little boy, who had grown up a great deal after the whole Gato incident. It didn't take long for Tazuna to arrive, and when he noticed that they had guests, he quickly went inside. Upon seeing the familiar faces of Naruto and the rest of Team 8, he smiled in relief. In his opinion, they were the only ones who could help them with their problem. After greeting them And being introduced to the rest of the team, they talk for a bit about things that had changed around the village, and Wave in particular. Tazuna gladly told them what he had been working on and how well things were going for them. "I'm so glad to see you guys again," Tazuna said while drinking a bit of sake. "Now that you're here, everything will be fine." "Tazuna-san, could you please explain what you know about the situation?" Kakashi asked him. "Sure, but I don't know that much either. It all started a few months ago when a young couple disappeared," Tazuna said, filling his saucer with sake once more. "At first the people in the village thought they had eloped. You know how young love is. But a week later another person disappeared without anyone noticing. This time it was a man in his 30s with no family, but he was well known in the village. So when he disappeared without a trace, people got worried. After that more and more people vanished. The neighboring villages too had some people missing over those last few weeks. Now about 40 missing persons have been reported." "Did anyone see anything?" Kiba asked. "Nobody saw a thing, and that's what got me worried," Tazuna said, nodding. "Rumor says that some people were kidnapped straight out of their own homes." The shinobi looked at each other and nodded. They instinctively knew that they would have to deal with missing Nin. Only a trained shinobi could get away with kidnapping and abducting people out of their own homes without anyone noticing. A shinobi was trained to infiltrate homes and buildings without leaving a mark or clue. They also realized that they would probably face several of them seeing the large number of people that had been kidnapped. A single shinobi wouldn't be able to do that, so they deduced that they would have to deal with an organized group. They didn't say anything to Tazuna, though not wanting him to worry. The conversation was interrupted, however, when the door opened and a smiling Inari entered the room. Inari had run home like he always did after school ended. He loved going to school and making new friends, but once school was over he went home as soon as he could. He loved spending time with his mother now even more than before. When some of the thugs Gato had hired tried to kidnap his mother all those months ago, he realized that he could lose her at any time. That's why he loved being with his mom and grandfather, even if some of his friends and classmates called him a mama's boy. He didn't care about any of that, besides he knew they didn't mean anything bad with it, seeing as most of his friends were either orphans or had lost their own mother or father during Gato's reign of terror. When he saw all the shinobi boots at the entrance of the hallway, he knew that his idols had arrived. Even after all these months, Inari still admired them for their actions and the help they had given him. He had made a promise to become just as strong as they were. He didn't want to become a shinobi, but he wanted to be brave and never give up just like they did. He rushed to the living room hoping to impress them. "Inari, calm down, will you?" Tsunami said, not approving of Inari running around the house like crazy. "Naruto Nichan, Kiba Nichan, Shino Nichan, and Hinata Nichan, you're back," Inari yelled happily. The mentioned boys and girls laughed and nodded at the young boy. "Good to see you again, Inari," they all said together. "You've grown a lot, Inari. I can tell from looking at you," Naruto said while putting a hand on Inari's shoulder. "How are you doing?" That was all it took before Inari launched into his explanation about what he had been doing so far and how much had happened to him since they had left. He told them that he made several good friends and that they had helped restore the town to its former glory by helping his grandfather and his crew. He also told them how much he loved school and that he dreamed of following in his father and grandfather's footsteps by becoming smart and strong enough to protect Wave. Later that night, after a lovely and amicable dinner, the Konoha shinobi huddled together to discuss the things they had learned from Tazuna and to come up with a plan of action. They would have to be careful not to tip off the kidnappers too early, otherwise they would just disappear underground. First of all, they needed information, and to get that, they would investigate the villages where most people had gone missing. Thanks to a simple hinge, they wouldn't be discovered, as they doubted that the missing Nin would show themselves in broad daylight. Once they got an idea, they would have to search for any leads and clues to find them. "Kakashi-sensei, do you think that we'll have to face strong missing Nin?" Sakura asked, a bit worried. "I'm afraid that we'll have no other choice than Sakura." Kakashi nodded. "But don't worry, I'm here to help you guys. Besides, all of you have been training very hard over the past few months. You're stronger than you think." "Yeah, don't worry, Sakura-chan. We'll take care of them while you and Hinata deal with the wounded and evacuate them," Naruto said to her. "That's not a bad idea, Naruto," Kakashi admitted. "The five of us, while pointing at the boys, will deal with the missing Nin, and you girls heal and protect the hostages. All right, hear that, Akamaru?" Kiba said while petting his partner. Finally some action. Just don't get in my way, dog breath. Sasuke said from his corner. Once I deal with them there won't be anything left for you. What did you say? Kiba said angrily. Now, don't say that, Sasuke. Kiba is just as capable as you are, and I'm sure there will be enough fighting for everyone. Kakashi said, trying to calm the two boys down. He really needed to talk to Sasuke about his behavior. Being arrogant like that could cost him his life in battle. Also, he needed to learn that sometimes you need help to deal with a stronger opponent. Kakashi then finished the meeting by instructing them to get a good night's sleep so that they would be in full form for the next day. The group didn't waste much time and got ready for the night knowing that the next few days would be filled with investigations and spying. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.